All right, and it's should be recording now. So let's have our first podcast. And so the objective of this podcast is to have a good conversation. We're gonna talk about stuff, and we're gonna have a conversation between three people here: Bruno, Mario, and Leslie. And we're three friends, but we haven't seen each other for quite a while. That's the background. That's so the audience knows what's going on. So so where are you right now, Mario? Are you in Boston?
I'm in Boston, yeah, like north of Boston, maybe 40 minutes north.
40 minutes?
Yeah.
Do you live there or do you live in Boston?
No, I live there in a town called Methuen, close to the border of New Hampshire. Living in Boston just doesn't make sense for me. Living in a city, expensive, traffic, can't park, all of that. For what?
Okay.
So yeah, living in the suburbs, always good.
But you go to Boston to work. Is that how it works?
I go to my home office to work, which is 5 steps away from my bedroom. So
That's
yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty
I
cool.
don't go. I don't go to an office. When I first moved here, we had an office in Framingham, which is maybe 50 minutes south of Boston, so like 1 hour away from me. I only went there once. I never really had the excitement to drive an hour to go to work. And besides, my team is not there, so why do I have to be there? And after the pandemic happened, the office closed completely. So yeah, don't go there anymore. I just work from home forever until I die.
It's the new world post pandemic.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
about you, Leslie?
I like it. Yeah.
Do you have to go to the office, Leslie? You're in
Oh no.
San Jose, right? Is it San Jose?
Yeah, I'm in Sunnyvale specifically. I used to go into the office because I live in Sunnyvale. I work in Sunnyvale.
Yeah.
It's like what is it? Like 15 minutes by motorcycle from where I'm at, so it's super close by. After pandemic, same like Mario, work from home. We're all virtual. I'm in a software team, so we don't need to physically meet to get our stuff together. So
Yeah.
everything's virtual, man.
Everything's virtual. Even podcasts are virtual.
It's
I mean,
true. True.
it's cool because we can do a podcast, and we're all three of us are in different places. I'm in Minneapolis right now, and we're in
Yeah.
different parts of the United States, and we can still get together on a Saturday morning and just chill and talk and do a podcast, which is pretty cool. Have you guys ever done
Yeah.
a podcast before?
First one.
I've been in something, not a podcast, not even close, but I've been into like a live Q&A with somebody who does podcast,
Okay.
virtual on Zoom. Yeah.
All right. So it was like what kind of live Q&A was it?
Do you know Sam Harris?
Yeah. I don't know him
Yeah,
a
he
lot,
did.
but he's a big YouTube guy, right?
No, no,
No?
he's not. He has his own podcast that he streams on few different podcast streaming services, and he has his own app as well, meditation app.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he's big on YouTube. He shares his podcast episodes on YouTube, but
Yeah, that's what I
I
meant.
wouldn't say he's big. Okay, yeah, he's not a big YouTuber. He just shares his podcast there. But yeah, anyway, that's the guy. He did the 2 live Q&A sessions with about 6,000 people, and I joined those. And the second one, my question, you get to ask a question before you register, and if your question gets picked, you have a chance to ask it. So the second time around, I was lucky enough to get my question picked, selected. So I was one of the panelists.
Uh-huh.
But I wasn't lucky enough to get selected on time because there was only 1 hour and like 10 people were asked to ask their question, and we were like 20 or 22 different panelists. So I wasn't didn't have a chance to ask. But yeah, this is not a. I wasn't in a podcast, but that's what I said. That was something related to being in a podcast.
Yeah, I think doing podcasts is interesting because we get to first of all, now with COVID, it's really hard to get together with people in person. So, but also with you guys living away now, because Leslie and Mario used to live in Minneapolis, so it's a great way to get together with you guys, or for to get together with people that are not in the same city, and just have really good conversations. And I think like this podcast format is really interesting, just to to share your ideas with people and get to know what people think about. It's sort of we like philosophy and stuff, so it's kind of a different experience than just the unilateral stuff, just like read a book or watch a documentary or something. This is like more interactive, so I think it's interesting because of that. That's why I wanted to make something like that. So that's the whole idea behind this.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the first topic. So what do you think about life during the pandemic? This life of just everything's virtual, living at home. How are you guys coping with that, and how do you think that is changing the world?
Life during the pandemic. I mean, it affected people differently. Obviously, I can speak for myself. I don't feel a great impact, or I don't see a big effect of the pandemic on me, on my lifestyle. Definitely affected the few things that I used to do that I no longer do, but other than that, it's just all mostly the same for me. That has not been the case for many others, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, from one side, moving everything to, like, when it comes to work, moving everything to digital, to virtual, that's all good. I don't see anything bad with that for most industries. I mean, some of them you can't be virtual, that's understandable. But from the other fighters, for example, like traveling, I used to love to travel. I still do, but maybe not as much, or not as broad of locations that I can pick from now. I have to think 20 times before going somewhere internationally, for example.
Yeah,
but I have been traveling domestically.
You went to San Diego the other day, right? Because last time I talked to you, I think you were in San Diego, right?
Yeah, I went twice to San Diego in the last few months, and I went once to Vegas, and I went once for a month and a half to Philadelphia. Yeah.
Oh, so you're still traveling quite a bit during this pandemic thing.
Yeah, you can say that.
That's brave, man.
Well, it's just this comment that you just made has a huge conversation around it.
Well, let's talk about
how to think. About how to think about this pandemic and what to believe and what not to believe, and whether you should fear it or you should not fear it, or you should just be careful. Like, there's so many questions that goes in your mind of how you want to deal with that. Just briefly, for me, I don't treat it as badly or as dangerously as it sounds, as they make it sound. Sorry. It's something to be careful. Something that will make you want to be careful when you're around people, but not to the point where my whole life is upside down, can't do anything anymore. I have to be hiding in my basement like a sleepy person we know. I just live my life. I just do whatever I need to do, and just be cognizant of where I am, and whether I'm going to be close to people or not. And that's it. Just do your thing.
But you're still, you're still comfortable traveling, going places. You just like take precautions. Is that it? Just use the mask.
Yeah, exactly. So you hear a lot of different theories about, oh, it spreads in the air. Oh, even if you're putting a mask, it might spread. Oh, this or that. You hear a lot of different things. But for me, I feel like as long as I have a mask on and I don't have any symptoms, that I'm not coughing, I'm not sneezing or whatever, then I'm not gonna, if I have it, I'm not gonna give it to anyone. It's highly likely that I won't if I have it. And same thing for others. Like if I'm sitting beside someone who, has a mask, I have nothing to worry. And in an airplane, everybody's required to put a mask on to begin with. So if you just think about it this way, you see like, yeah, the airplane is not that dangerous place, that's full of infections that's going to spread across the whole airplane. No, I don't see it that way.
Because they screen people a lot before they go on trips. Is that why it's not dangerous?
No, because masks are mandatory, because the air has been, purified, circulated, cleaned, they sanitize every airplane whenever, as part of the cleaning and before they board the travelers. So they are doing a lot to protect people from getting infected. And besides, if you have a mask on and you sanitize, before you enter and, before you eat or whatever, I think it should be fine.
Yeah,
I'm willing to take a risk. Basically, I'm willing to take a risk if there is like 5% chance I'm going to get it because of my lifestyle. I'm willing to take that risk as opposed to just staying home and locking myself in.
Okay, so you think it's worth taking a risk?
We don't hear you. Wait. Leslie trying to say something, but we don't hear him.
Leslie, what happened to your sound? It was working before.
Audio?
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Leslie having some technical difficulties.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
fine. We'll give it a second to reconnect.
Yeah, it's cool. So you think that the healthiest way to go about it is to be careful about it, but to still live your normal life. Would you do that if you had to go places? Because you work at home most of the time, right? So you have that. Oh, did Leslie leave?
Yeah, he's probably gonna reconnect.
Okay. So, yeah, here he is. So would you still do it if you had to go places to work, Mario?
Would I still do what?
Like, would you still? Yeah, Leslie, I think we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah. I think I understand.
Leslie?
Okay, never mind. Yeah, we hear you.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. My Bluetooth kind of got fucked. What were we speaking about? Oh yeah, like travel and shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
have you been doing like your normal stuff, Leslie, or how have you been dealing with this situation?
I'm kind of like Mario. I'm not much has really changed in a lot of my lifestyle. Like I'm kind of on Mario's boat as well. Like everything in life has inherent risk, and you can either choose to like sit in a basement and like if you quantify the risk and psych yourself out, which is what's happened with this pandemic. Like everybody's put numbers, statistics, and you fucking don't know what like the average flu does. It is a risky thing. It's not like countries have stopped travel for a reason. So you gotta like take a balance. You can't just like, go lick every street pole. Like don't be stupid. But I mean, you can take measures. Like you know the physical quantifications of what happens. Like wear a mask. If you're having sick, like stay home. Like it's just common sense. So it's like I feel part of it is blown out of proportion where people just don't socialize. Like I know people who are just like at home the entire time and they're like begging for socializing. And it's like, dude, you just got to be cautious. Like, don't do stupid things, wear a mask, and you're fine. So
yeah, I know people like I know people that have just been staying home and barricading themselves against the world in order to be completely safe against the virus. And I know people that they don't even seem to really register. It doesn't really seem to register with them that there is a virus at all. So I've met people like in both sides of the continuum, basically.
and I think both sides are too much. I think there's an in between.
Yeah, I agree.
Like
I agree.
like you can, like, I'm not saying you should walk around without a mask and like cough at everyone you see, but just like be cautious, man. Like use your common sense. Like you're sick, stay home. You're not, do your thing. It's fine. Social distance, 6 feet. There's ways to do things.
Yeah, I agree. This situation actually kind of, I think you touched on an interesting point, man. Common sense, which seems to be lacking a lot in
Common sense is not so common anymore.
Exactly. Common sense is not so common anymore. That's beautiful. It's true. It's very true. It's funny, but it's also true. But like and the whole, like in the United States in particular, but this has spread. This disease seems to have spread. I'm not talking about the COVID, which is also a disease that's obviously spreading, but I'm talking about this like obsession with, either you have these supposedly left-wing leanings, or you have these supposedly right-wing leanings, and you everything goes into like these two groups. And there's no, like you said,
There's nothing
there's
in
no
between.
common sense.
Well, it's a function of a lot of things. Like it's a like multifaceted like problem.
Let's talk about that problem a little bit. We can talk a lot about a lot of stuff, but I mean, this COVID thing, for example, to me, it's really even hard to understand why you would take like a strong stance on not wearing a mask, or basically, so why you would take a strong stance on either, I'm not going to wear a mask, this virus doesn't exist, that is ridiculous, because it really should be like a healthcare issue rather than like an ideological issue. And also, obviously, the other extreme, let's just like lock everything down, let's not leave the house. That's also, pretty silly. So, but I like, that's just a reflection on how little common sense there is in society and how, radicalized people's thinking are, but in a very stupid way,
Yeah, I mean, there's a good. I have to blame social media and the internet for a lot of these things. Like there's so many things, like spread of misinformation, the polarization of, like, take any topic and it's only options A or option B. There's no like compromise. There's no discussion.
Yeah.
And like, how are you going to move forward? Like, if you're going to say you're, left or right, like, how are you guys going to coexist if you're polar opposites of a question? Like, people should talk to each other about what is a compromise, because there are valid points for both sides of any given argument, except if one is like not a fact. But if you can agree on facts and you're trying to decide on opinion, like, you have to be able to discuss. And like in this day and age, like social media, if you type like one sentence, like a million people in for a million things, and you're either categorized extreme left or extreme right based on that one sentence, which is like nuts.
Have you watched that documentary that I told you about, The Social Dilemma?
I have not watched it yet.
So it's funny because you're talking about what they were talking about in the documentary. That's why I'm asking that, because it seems like it sounds like you watched it yesterday.
I have not seen it at all.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you were just talking about. That's exactly what they talk about in the, I mean, among other things, granted, but that's a big part of like what they talk about and what you get from that documentary. So maybe you don't even need to see it because you already know. But
How about you, Mario? You're awfully quiet.
he's thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, he has his thinking face on. I can see that marvelous thoughts are being
Trying,
generated.
trying to find, trying to find this thread that I want to catch and jump in on.
A what?
Yeah. The thread of the conversation that I want to
Okay.
touch on. And,
But just before you do that, just to kind of like complement what you said, Leslie. One thing that is very like close to what you just said that they touch on the documentary is that's you're saying, okay, people need to talk, you know, there are merits probably to both sides of any argument, but you can't like make up your own facts, you know, you have to have like common facts in order to have a discussion.
Yep.
That's they in that documentary they explain how, and like you're saying, you know, social media and the internet right now, people don't have the same facts anymore, right? Because before you had the same facts, right? Which is the truth,
The
you know, it's
Holocaust.
reality, you know. But now, like if you Google climate change in a rural area in the United States, you're probably gonna get climate change is a hoax. So that's what's gonna appear on Google. That's
The
gonna be your fact.
Holocaust.
But
The
me, I live in
Holocaust.
Minneapolis. In Minneapolis, sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I said the Holocaust.
Yeah, the Holocaust is another example.
Yeah.
So, but I live in Minneapolis, which is, I don't know, like a Democrat city, I guess. I don't know. But basically, it's not a rural area in the United States. So actually, I should do this experiment. But if I Google climate change, what's probably going to appear are going to be things about, you know, climate change is real, or probably something a little bit more complex. Climate change, this or that, explaining climate change. But certainly, it's not going to be climate change is a hoax. So I'm going to get very different information, right? So my fact when I talk to someone who's from Mississippi is probably going to be like, we're going to go at it with two very different sets of facts,
Right.
which is obviously not even a possibility, right? It's an impossibility that two things are true at the same time.
Yeah.
That's why you can't have a conversation.
so if you're looking at the internet for facts, then you're doing it wrong. I wouldn't expect to get facts just by searching something on the internet and see what results I get. And the way algorithms work, why you get something in one place or another, it's all by design, based on what people have searched for or typed in their search engine the most in that area. That's what people will see because that's what's common, you know, in this area. So it's not like there is some, just based on what we said about the internet and searches and all of that, just by this alone, this doesn't indicate that there is some evil fact, you know, bullshit going on behind the search engine. No, it's just everything is done by
but
design.
that's not what I'm saying though. And I think you've seen the documentary, right, Mario?
Yeah.
And they say that, you know, we set out because Leslie, you haven't seen the documentary, so but it's good that you haven't seen it because if you know, whenever people watch this podcast, it's good to like kind of explain it a little bit. But so Mario, the documentary is about it's basically people from the internet industry, the Silicon Valley industry, people that used to work in Silicon Valley. They're talking about these things, and they say, you know, that exactly. You know, there's not like it's not like we set out to do this. We didn't set out.
Yeah, but that's different than than searching for climate change and getting different results based on what they want to push to me. I think the point they were referring to is more around.
Well, though they exist. They talk about two different things. You know, one thing is.
Hang on. So what Mario is saying is, if you go on a Google search engine and you say, you know, Obama is the Antichrist, you will find evidence for it. Doesn't mean the evidence is true, but whatever your bias is, if you throw it in a search engine, you will find evidence for it, and that doesn't mean it's a fact. Is what Mario is saying. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
you can find whatever you want.
It's just the facts that people are given, right, by the internet, which are not real.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I think there's an important quantification of like internet versus not. Like, just a global word of internet, because there are things like Wikipedia, which have a decent collection of facts. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but like, I think the main thing is like common sense and critical thinking. Like, given an evidence about something, you should be able to, like, at least to an extent, call bullshit or not bullshit on it. Like, if you're going to say Obama is the Antichrist and then you quantify a bunch of things that have nothing to do with it, or like are like don't make sense, then you can come to that conclusion. But things like, you can discern certain things. For example, the Holocaust. Like, you can find Holocaust information on the internet. And the reason I'm trying to say that the internet is not all bad is because it has merits and demerits. The demerits are I wouldn't say outweigh, but it's up to the user to extract the good bits and be able to, like, ignore the bad bits. And if people don't put work to find that, they're just wasting their energy, to what Mario said.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, I agree with you. The difficulty, I think, with the internet thing, and that's something that shows up in that documentary, is and maybe kind of think about that. I had already thought about that, but now I'm thinking even more about that. It's very difficult in this internet world. It's very difficult to it's starting to become very difficult to discern, what's a fact from what's not a fact. Because before we would get our information from certain outlets, but now, and Mario said, you should be getting your facts from the internet, which, fair enough, but that's how people are getting their facts, like realistically, especially the younger generations, that is exactly how people are getting their facts. For good and for worse, and obviously it's better to get your facts, if you're going to get them from the internet, it's better to go on the Guardian and get your facts from the Guardian than it is to get your facts from a Facebook feed.
Right.
But regardless, people are getting their facts from the internet, and there's a lot of potential for like fake facts there, unfortunately.
Yeah. The other thing I want to connect to this is the media's role in, maybe it's not facts that they are kind of spreading. Maybe it's not whether it's a fact or not fact. I mean, they try hard to say something that's factual because they are media and they have to be perhaps checked on something. But the way media kind of looks at things makes you believe one thing or the other. The way they focus on certain incidents or angles or analyze certain behaviors, sometimes take something out of context, sometimes look at something from an angle that makes somebody look bad. All of that is having the same effect on what social media is doing, or how people are getting facts right or wrong from different places. And that's splitting or categorizing people into at least two major groups, just based on what you watch and what you listen to. That is a huge problem, I would say. And I had a big hope for that me coming to United States, I would see that this is not even going to be a problem. Like, everybody does their job good, well, ethically. There's no, fabrication or anything like that. That wasn't the case. That's definitely not the case.
There's another interesting thing you brought up about like media. I saw this video. I don't know if I shared it with you guys, about like Sacha Cohn Baron when he speaks in like one of the ACL things.
Yeah.
One of his ACL speeches. Like, he made a really good point that I never thought of until I saw that video, and it's like very interesting. It's about like regulation of outlets. So like all these news outlets have some sort of regulation, what you can't say and what you can't say. So like Reuters has a law, CNN has a law, it's like government owned, not government owned, like governmentally regulated. Like you can't say this, you can't say that.
That's from the that's in the law, in the law of the country, the national law, or
Yes.
just self-regulated.
It's not self-regulated. It is
Okay,
by
so
law. Like
by
if
law,
you're a,
by law, by
if,
you know.
yeah, if you're a
Okay.
press outlet, there are certain things you can and can't say.
Okay, in the
And
United
what he's
States, in the United Kingdom.
yes, yes.
Okay.
But for things like Facebook, there is no such law, because it is Facebook's justification is, so this is like where the gray area is. Facebook's justification is that everybody should be able to say what they want. But if
So
everybody
those laws only apply to the media, but not Facebook. Is that what
yes,
you're saying?
because Facebook doesn't publish them, or at least doesn't claim to publish them.
Okay.
But which it's kind of a gray area, because Facebook allows your voice to go everywhere, right? Like they are broadcasters, but they're not authors. Like that's the difference. The author for news outlets is they're the broadcaster and the author of the content. So they're kind of liable. For Facebook, it's like, well, Leslie said this, I didn't do it. Like I'm just telling you what Leslie said, not my fault. And it's kind of, I call kind of bullshit on that to an extent, because you can't just spread the power that Facebook has now as a news outlet is the problem. That people are considering individuals as news. Like my friend said this and it had a link to this, and it becomes like he becomes a source of news.
Right.
So, and it's kind of the fault of people. Like people sharing news on Facebook, it should kind of like be not allowed. Like you shouldn't have that. That shouldn't be a source, because you should have a clear distinction of like news versus opinion. And it's even an interesting gray area, because there are events where Facebook has done good, where news outlets weren't willing to publish a story that's like trying to help. I think there was like a Mexican cartel that was like about to kill a bunch of people or something, and the news outlet was like, it's not going to generate views, so we're not going to publish it. But like Facebook got traction and the government did something based on that. So it's such a gray area, and there's so many things you can talk about. But yeah, Facebook is like, social media has a lot of complications.
I would agree on the part around the news in social media, that there should be some regulations around that. If you want to be able to share news or post something news, you have to have a license that you're a legit news station or whatever, so you can be able to speak about your process of how you got that news. Not anyone can share news. Yes, that I do agree on. I don't agree on people sharing stuff, my opinion, under the freedom of speech. And just because Facebook is a broadcaster, they have to have some regulation around that. No, I would say, if you want to regulate freedom of speech on social media, then you have to also regulate it in life, like just on a smaller scale, probably. Like let's say you have you send the mail to everyone to come to this area, and you're gonna talk about something in the microphone, whatever, loudspeaker. So, and you just tell them something. So this is like 1,000 people versus 100,000 people, but still the same problem, just more different scale. So I'm against. I would be very careful around when to block somebody's opinion. Somebody's not trying to share news and facts. Somebody's just trying to share their opinion. I hate this. I like this. This is good. This is bad. I think this should be open. I think social media, Facebook should not. They do it now, but they shouldn't regulate, and they shouldn't decide which one is okay. This is not good, and this is right, and this is not right. Once that happens, then there's a lot of bias, and there would be a lot of discrimination around what content they see fit and what content they don't see fit based on their ideology.
It gives them a lot of power, no, for sure. And I'm not advocating for a regulation of freedom of speech for the sake of regulation. There's a reason behind why I'm even considering this, because normally I wouldn't. Because it's trying to solve the problem of people becoming news themselves. Like the problem we're trying to solve, like you said, you want news to come from a news outlet, right? So how do you quantify that? So say, for example, you have like account verifiability. Like, let's just say you have some check mark, means your news, you can share that. Mm-hmm. Now, what if someone writes an opinion piece, like genuine article, right? And then eventually they get followers. So they get followers, they become more famous, like they generate a following. And now you're hitting this gray area where a lot of people believe this person's, like you said, opinion. And at that point, and if then that point, the person can change the opinion to be whatever they like, you know, hey, Holocaust didn't happen. And a bunch of people.
But that's still an opinion.
Fair point. But
like when does something become news and when does something become opinion? Like to be able to say like this person is sharing fake news.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Potentially that's not needed. It's still opinion. But people could believe it as news. They would not, like the value of the account, like tech that this is news.
Yeah, but I mean, the way I would see this is move this to the outside of the digital world and social media. Move it to like person to person. I could, with my passion and with my story, I could make or I could make enough people follow me with my story in person, and they will share that opinion with others, and I can just convince them that, yeah, the Holocaust didn't happen. So that's spreading fake news, let's say. But how can you regulate that? You know, should we?
That's the gray area. Like, I don't know, because that's kind of what's happening now. Like, because it sounds similar to what's happening now, except now people are like, the source of the misinformation is either a fake website or like malicious website, so organization, or a thought of an individual. We're trying to your point, we're trying to preserve individuals' opinion, and if they want to follow someone, like it's their right, that's fine. But the key thing is, if they come to say the Holocaust is not real, like if they're able to convince people of facts, that's where it's like, well, you're back to where you were. Like you're able to convince people that the fact is false.
The social media's responsibility is to tell people when this channel is a news, legit news station or network, and when this is not. And if they decide to take their news and facts from a non-network registered station or whatever, a news network, then it's on them. You know, I can believe whatever I want. You can't stop me. But this is where they should make that distinction. Like, if you are a news network, you're registered as that, and you have this check mark, whatever, blue thing on beside your icon, and you say something like this, that the Holocaust didn't happen, yeah, you have to show us, you know, they have to prove what is the process, the journalism process you went through to get to that. Show us
that's fair enough. No, I think that's fair enough. Because I'm thinking about things like in the past when we didn't have social media, you had followers. Like, you know, you guys have seen Wild Wild Country, of the person in Oregon who like got a following.
No.
It was like an Indian guru that got like a crazy amount of people. He even got like people into like the government of like the state government. But anyways, my point
Satya Sai Baba?
No, well, that's gonna flag a lot of people right now in this video. I'm not into that, so I don't much care. But if people watch this, they're like, Mario. But I see your point. Like, people will do that regardless. Like, I think I see your point. that's a futile thing to solve. Like it's like the one thing you can do is like put a clear distinction within news and not news, and people, if they choose to believe, get their news from something that's not news, like, well, you know, we tried, but you can't really like solve every single person's thought. And that's a good intermediate. Like, make sure that this is news and this is not news, and put some rules on what's news.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
And another step to that, whenever something is considered news, whether social media or whether news stations, they have to separate opinions from news, from facts.
yes,
You know, some stations do that, some stations don't. Some stations say, okay, this is what happened today. You know, we're reporting on this, something happened. But the way he did it was, you know, he was bad, he didn't do it right, or what, like, no, have two different segments, two different shows altogether. One for news only, don't tell me your opinion, I don't care about it. And one for, analyze opinion, whatever you want.
That's like some news outlets do that, and I like that. Like, they present the facts and then like
news,
this is our opinion. I think more news outlets should do that. I feel that should be a standard. Like, if you're a news outlet, this is how you should present your article. That would be great. I fully endorse that. That would be awesome. I don't know how to get that in though.
I mean, that is like fairly straightforward. I mean, like you're saying, you know, newspapers should, you know, it should be very clear, you know, what you're presenting as a fact, as, you know, reporting something that has happened or is happening at the moment, but you're reporting the fact. And like Mario said, you know, you should be impartial about it. I mean, this is like, we're talking like really basic journalism stuff that is just not being done in a lot of places, which is crazy. You know, this is like very basic journalism, right? You're just like reporting something that, you know, you have to be impartial about it, because that's, if not, you know, your journalism really doesn't have whole lot of value if you're biased, right? And then another thing is like an opinion. You know, an opinion or an editorial is like when you take something that has happened, you know, and you kind of like give your view on it. But that's a separate thing, and it should be presented separately. But I think that should, you know, and there should be law. I don't know if there are no laws that regulate that, like, for example, in the United States, because, you know, something like Fox News, not only Fox News, Fox News is just a very clear example of, like, are they talking about something that has happened? Like, are they talking about facts? Are they talking about reporting? Are they giving their
opinion? Do you mean CNN?
Huh?
Do you mean CNN? Maybe you said Fox News by mistake. Do you mean CNN?
Wow.
Look at that. Look at
Mr.
that.
Mario.
That's not how I see it. I see that Fox News is actually has a specific person. You know, this person is for reporting on news, and this other person is for, you know, have a show to analyze and say opinions. That's how I see it, at least for the limited time I see what Fox News is. Anyway, continue.
I mean, my exposure to Fox News has been, you know, I listen to them, and it's not news. You know, what you're listening to is not news. It's just like either they're reporting something and it seems completely biased, or they're just giving their opinions. You know, talking out of their ass. You know, that's my, you know, my exposure to it. But it's true that, you know, that is a common problem of a lot of news media that comes like from a TV aspect. And I think CNN, you're talking about CNN. I think that's kind of, it might have started with CNN, where at least CNN is a big part of that problem. And you know why? Because as far as I'm aware, I'm pretty sure this is the case. CNN was the first cable news, or the first major news on cable. And they were 24 hours. So, you know, something that should be like, you know, 1 hour a day, right? You know, you present, oh, okay, these things happen today. You know, that's like a 1 hour. Okay, you can fill 1 hour with some information, right? But if you have a channel that you have to talk about something 24 hours, how do you present news 24 hours a day, right? You just can't. Eventually, you're going to start giving your opinion. You're just going to have conversations about things. And it's just a natural thing, because you cannot,
of course,
provide information for 24 hours, right? So the information becomes something else. It becomes an editorial. It becomes, a conversation. And at some point,
Nobody's against.
throughout several decades, that starts to blur, that division starts to become very blurry. And now you have NBC, you have CBS, you have ABC, you have Fox, and they're all CNN basically. They all have their news channels and they're all talking about this stuff 24 hours a day. And also, not only are they talking about news, they're talking about very, like a small percent, for some reason, I think because they want to make money and they think that people want to hear about these specific issues. They're not even talking about everything. They're talking about like a very specific amount of topics, Okay, Trump is like 50%, So let's do these news and, about Trump 24 hours a day, and that's going to be our 50% of our time. And of course, you can't report on Trump 50% of the time, right? Like that's what, 12 hours a day. So you start.
No. I mean, you're going on and on about this, but nobody's against a news station making opinion shows and talking about stuff like that. We're just saying separate them. Like in the same news network, have one show for news and other 24, 23 shows, whatever, for just opinions and stuff. Yeah, it's totally fine.
No, it's not totally fine, actually, because what I'm saying is that it's blurry. It has become very blurry. The division, that's what's not fine, If it's clear, yeah, that's fine. But what's not fine is how blurry it has gotten.
Well, I think there's a third component to this. Like, I think regardless of which side, like whether you like Fox, not Fox, like CNN, don't like CNN, we can both agree that like it's blurry and it's not great. But
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
But the reason why it's that is something that Bruno just said. News outlets have become they've become a business. Like you want traffic and you want money. Like that's the end goal. Whether you're presenting facts for the betterment of society as a whole, doesn't matter. So
zero.
To your point, Mario, yeah, you can have both. Like fair enough. But I don't know if you can do it 24 hours. Like I like the older format where you had, a segment of your day of a regular channel that's dedicated to the news. And then like you said, if like think of this as a problem. You have 24 hours of your day. You have to run this machine of a news channel, like a TV crew that's going to pump out content every 24 hours, and it has to be news. So you can regulate and say, okay, 1 hour a day, there should be a facts hour, if you call it, and that's going to be 1 hour of facts. Well, good. Everything else, write whatever the fuck you want, it's fine. That will lead to the rest 23 hours being nothing but you trying to algorithmize and like engineer it such that you get maximum money, because that's your problem statement.
First, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I'm saying, so the reason I'm saying is it becomes like it diverts from what the real purpose of news is. And so you start diverting into, we want to make money sort of deal, instead of, what do we feel is the right thing to do at this situation? So instead of pressurizing, maybe reduce the amount of hours for news, maybe make it like 12 hours a day, some reduction in like the workload to run a news channel, some way.
I definitely agree that the business is a factor, that they need to make money is a factor. I just still don't see it that it's gonna be hard for them to separate news from opinions. And besides, it's not gonna, they will repeat the same news at least 4 times a day, just because not everybody is gonna be watching news in the morning or afternoon or night or whatever. So that's one. And then second, I believe there is enough news that you can talk about, and maybe show like a clip of somebody kind of making a speech about something that's already some time taken, to fill at least maybe 2 hours worth of news, maybe in a day, maybe like unique news in a day, and then, replicate that 3 or 4 times. You already have, 6-7 hours of just news, and the rest make it opinion. I mean, in a country that's not that great in terms of policies and everything, my country, we do that. We have a news hour, half an hour, 3 times a day or whatever. nobody says anything about their opinion. Everybody says, this is what happened. He met with this, she met with that. That's what they did. And then there are shows throughout the day where politicians discuss about stuff. What's your opinion? What's your take? What's your analysis? That's how I think it should be, even if it's making business or not, try to separate it.
And I agree with you that there's enough news to go on through the day. Like I largely agree with you. Like there's nothing that is against, but I think the key the key thing that has to change for the situation you're saying to be functioning without bias is the business aspect. Like
Also,
if
yeah,
you can
I agree,
somehow
yeah.
change that,
Yeah,
if you can change that,
100%.
then everything changes. Like everything changes. Like because there's plenty of news around the world to run 24 hours. Like to your point, like every country's got problems, and every country can you can run 24 hours of nothing but facts.
Yeah, but you also have to be a little bit global, and you have to talk about different things. And because of the business aspect of it, they want to make so money. They're so obsessed with this sensationalism stuff. Okay, people really want to hear about this Trump guy because he says all kinds of crazy things. This started way before he was president, right? I mean, he was always popular with TV, right? He was a reality TV host. I mean, they want people like that. And when you get someone like that who happens to be running for president, it's like, wow, man, we're going to make people are going to want to hear this, because it's just like clickbait, oh, Mexicans are rapists. Yeah. Oh, okay, this public guy said Mexicans are rapists. Man, everybody's going to listen to this. So we're going to put it out there, regardless of the consequences, right, for society. And then this guy becomes president. Holy shit, this reality TV guy became president. This is the best thing ever, regardless of what's going to happen to society, right? All the crazy stuff. It's not just Trump. Trump happens to be the crazy stuff of the moment. But all the crazy, politics, for example, if you look at American politics, it has become this thing that is being squeezed to provide news that are entertaining. It's not a normal political process anymore. They're turning it into a reality TV thing, right? And it's not just the fact that Trump used to be in reality TV. No, the whole thing, has been turned into a reality TV or a sporting event, right? It's been turned into news, not news even, as a media thing. It's been turned into a media product. And whenever, this necessity to make money out of these news just gives them a very powerful incentive, like you're saying, Leslie, to just grab things and monetize them, monetize this information, when really information that is valuable is not information that is being that has been filtered in order to be monetized. And that applies also to the social media, that how and the social media also, if we're talking about truth, news alone is hard enough, but the social media, I mean, the fact that they need, how do you regulate truth in social media? Because you can't tell people what to say and what not to say. You have ethical considerations, but you also have the practical considerations. How are you going to have moderators for 1 billion people that go on social media, right? Or 2 billion people or 3 billion people that go on social media as technology evolves and it becomes more available. So there's no practical way of moderating anyways. So how do you separate what's true from what's not true? Right now you go on Facebook, what people say, and sometimes they pass it as facts. It's not true. It's whatever they hear or whatever they make up, but how do you even control that? I mean, truth has become something that is completely blurry and volatile. And the problem is, I don't even know how we go about regulating this, in social media. Maybe it's not possible by virtue of how it's organized. And maybe we just have to find some way to live in the 21st century, but this is going to be a problem that will continue in time because it's so difficult to regulate. And this is something that they talk about in the documentary as well. But I mean, it's a real problem. It's a real problem. What is truth in the 21st century? Right?
Whatever you want to believe in.
And I don't even know how we're going to be able to solve this problem. Is it,
Did you just thumbs up Mario?
what's that?
Oh,
A virtual
he's a
thumbs
king.
up?
Experimenting with Zoom features.
Okay, that's cool.
Uh,
So, I mean, it's interesting that it's so interesting because technology, and you guys are technology guys. I mean, we now have all these tools that are amazing to change the world, but we also have to deal with a lot of these problems, these tools, the problems that these tools bring. So there's a lot of good and a lot of bad. Um, and like the new generations, I'm it's really concerning. Like how are we standing up?
well,
So
I have a sit stand desk, so I sit and stand, and my legs are kind of getting cramped, so I'm standing.
that's good. This is like
And
this is what passes for physical exercise now that we all live at home and we don't go
Yeah.
anywhere. You
Yeah.
have to stand up,
speaking
to
of,
sit down.
oh, you want to continue?
No,
What were you saying?
I was just gonna say that imagine like new generations, they're gonna be different and they're gonna be messed up, because they don't have these pre-social media notions that we have, of truth, of real social contact. Everything is gonna come in a different way, you know.
It it is a function of parenting. Like I know parents who, like, I think Joe Rogan, for example, he doesn't even let his kids go on social media. Like, don't give them a phone, don't give them anything. It's like they might be the uncool kid, but it's like it's okay. Like, no, like get older and then like I'll expose you to social media. Till then, like books, teachers, like that's your source of truth. The occasional news that I will tell you, and that's it. Like other than that, you're not exposed to social media, which you can do.
Because you Leslie and me and Habibi, I mean, we grow up learning about the Holocaust, right? People tell
Yeah.
us, okay, this is what happened. Maybe not Habibi. He's like saying
He's
no,
shaking
but
his head.
I did. I mean, you have to tell us about that, Mario. But I mean, look, people will tell you what happened during the Holocaust, right? I mean, this happened. There are even people that are alive today that have been in the camps. Like, there's plenty of evidence, right? I mean, people
They
know.
say they happen.
Huh?
That's what they say,
Yeah, that's what they say that.
that they happen.
Anyways, you read the history books, you get history from reputable sources, right? More or less reputable sources, but there was centralized truth to some extent. And then, I mean, that could become a problem for a totalitarian state, right? In a communist state, the Soviet Union is saying, oh no, Chernobyl, what are you talking about? This was like the Americans infiltrated the thing, and they sabotaged it. But that's a whole different thing. But before, there used to be like history, there was some sort of central intelligence or central truth to it, right? But now kids are going to grow up with whatever shows up on social media. That's going to be their truth. And that's a very different paradigm, than our paradigm. They're going to be like, they're going to be getting news, maybe even from each other.
It's the only best approach to solving something like this is the thing we've been talking about since the beginning. It's like a clear definition of facts versus opinions. Like if like, and it comes back to also what you say, there's multiple things. If collectively a collection of people say this is a fact, it's more likely it's a fact. But like, to answer your thing about totalitarianism, if Russia says, hey, Chernobyl never happened, and they're going to institutionalize it, that becomes a fact for those people. But that's the opinion of a government, not the people. So the only like real like good intermediate solution is if somehow you can have a system where a collection of people agree on something that's clearly a fact, or like are able to not opinionize, but agree, like that this is a fact and these are the history of facts without opinion. Like that's probably like the best thing you can do at this point. There's a lot of problems with that as well, but it's like the best approach.
Why we're using this as an example, the Holocaust? Why is it a big deal whether people believe this actually happened or not?
Why?
I mean, I do understand the need for facts, but I would focus more on other things, like on the vaccine, whatever, not the vaccine, the pandemic, the COVID stuff. Maybe I need the facts. Yeah, what's happening? But
Well,
I wouldn't give the
I don't know
Holocaust as
what
an example.
I don't know what your problem is with the Holocaust. Maybe it's because you don't believe it happened. I don't know. I'm just saying.
No, no, no. I didn't say that, man. Don't put words in my mouth that might put me in jail after people watch the video. No.
Maybe nobody will watch the videos.
So
Yeah.
to answer your
No,
question,
but I don't know. I was just using it as an example because Leslie used it. I mean, personally, but there are other
It's-
examples. We could
it's-
talk
it's an
about.
easy example.
Throw Leslie under the bus. Okay.
Okay, it's an easy example because like people are aware that that's
Yeah, I
like,
agree. It's a good
two
example.
polarized things. But to answer like Mario's question of why do you even need to know it, a knowledge on history is a good knowledge base for what people do as a collective. So like if you're trying to like see what people have done historically in the past, so take for example the rise of Hitler. You're like, how the fuck does this one guy convince an entire country to like go to World War II? Like just like you're like, how the fuck did that happen? The only way is you read the collection of events and say like, this happened, this guy got assassinated, he talked this way, he convinced these people. And so you can educate yourself and say, well, if you're seeing similar patterns, you can kind of see that people are getting radicalized. And so it's the only real defense against like repetition of errors as a collective. As an individual, sure, you're right. Like day to day, like probably doesn't matter. Like, vaccines are more important to you day to day. But like holistically, if you're talking about like, should we do this thing as a nation? The only real collection of data you have is that history.
I agree. I agree. It's beneficial to know historically what happened. Not necessarily to go on every detail, but just to know,
Right.
Holistically what happened. Yeah, I agree. It's good. I just, that's okay. It's not a big deal. I was just curious why you're using this as an example, but yeah, that's fine.
It's the easiest example I could remember. Like, that's no.
Yeah, because it's so controversial or so like extreme that even some people don't believe it happened.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And I mean,
By the way, do you know? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It doesn't matter.
I'm talking about this side topic. So can I continue this?
Okay, so just what I was going to say, but we don't need to talk about it. I actually went to Auschwitz, and that's what it's written in Auschwitz somewhere, we have this here because we want people to remember, right? So that's the whole point of having something like Auschwitz and not destroy it. Is like, okay, so you don't believe in it? I mean, most people will believe in it, but look, if you don't believe in it, it's here. Look, we'll take you through it. We'll show you the rooms. We'll show you they still have the amounts of like human hair that you would collect. They have a bunch of stuff there. So it's, I guess, that is that it's important to believe, like, just like reinforcing Leslie's point. It's important to believe in these things and to know what went wrong. So we remember, not to do the same mistakes again and again. So yeah, it's important to remember these things.
Your side note, Mario.
Oh yeah, side question. Do you know what this is?
Fitbit?
No, man.
Alexa?
This guy. No.
What is it?
I don't know.
You guys, I thought you were one of the teams who worked on this. That's Amazon Halo.
Oh.
You didn't know about it.
I know about it. It looks like a Fitbit from here.
It's an Amazon Halo. It's called. It's a new product that Amazon released as an invitation only at this point. So I got one, and it's pretty interesting. One of the features they have in it. I mean, it's really well done. Actually, I love it. All the design that has been put in and the thoughts put in the application itself and all those, it's amazing. But anyway, the one feature that's super cool is that it will analyze your tone as you speak, and it will tell you whether you're amused, you're happy, you're bored, you're calm, you're whatever. Now I can even take a look and see, like, for the last 2 minutes, how did I sound with you guys? Now, there is no like direct association with how is this beneficial to me, but it's definitely good to know how do I sound to others. And for example, at 12:49 p.m., I sounded annoyed. 12:49. That's before I joined the call. So yeah, there are some cool features into it.
So
Yeah.
who are you talking to that you
know.
were annoyed with?
My phone.
My phone? You're talking to you
Maybe,
were annoyed
maybe,
at your phone?
maybe when I saw your message, I looked. I was like, Bruno, this guy. Maybe that's what I said. I don't know.
Now I got to talk about whatever it is that he wants to talk about. I want to talk. I'm gonna have to waste my time. All right.
So yeah, that's just a pretty cool feature or product.
That's super slick. I actually didn't know about that.
So Mario, you said that you wanted to talk about something. So that you really wanted to talk about something. So
He's
I'm
smiling.
curious to know what
He's
that is.
smiling.
No. I mean, I that's the question I was going to ask Sam Harris in that live Q&A, and I didn't have a chance to. And it's just bothering me that I don't know the answer to it.
I probably won't know the answer either, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry in advance.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
you probably won't. Leslie probably will try to answer it, but then he will say, "I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying." So,
Is it the
Sounds
meaning
about
of
right.
life? If it's the meaning of life, I can tell you right away. I have no idea, man.
no. So here it goes, and this disclaimer or heads up for our listeners out there that it's a philosophical question. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Kind of deep.
But this is mostly a philosophical podcast. So if anyone listens to this, I'm guessing that's what they want.
I was waiting for this part, but I'm glad we got to it. So it's actually a simple question, but I'll elaborate on it as well. I was having this conversation with a religious person, okay? And for everyone, I am not religious. I'm non-believer.
Okay.
And we got to the point where they asked me a question that I was like, I don't know. I just don't know. And I thought about it, many times, and I still don't know. So the question was, why do you do good, or why do you feel good is the right thing to do? And here's my theory. So for a religious person, they say, yeah, God told us to be good and do this and do that. Great. For a non-religious person, why I should be a good person, why I should give to charity, why I should help the people in need. It feels like I want to do it. Okay, great. That's how I feel like doing. But why? So here's my elaboration on it, just a couple sentences. It's either because, basically I'm looking for a non-emotional, non-selfish reason for that. Some reasonable, something using just rational thoughts of why I should do that as a non-religious person. And here's my theory. First thing is, I either do that because we are genetically wired to just help. And it just feels good, so I just do it for me to feel good. And that's a selfish reason, kind of. Like selfish, not in a bad way, in a good way. I just want to feel good. I give a homeless person money, or I help somebody whenever they, get whatever I'm helping them with. I enjoy that they're happy, or something like that. The other theory is that I somehow, and the first one has nothing to do with reason. It's just, genetics. That's how we're wired.
Mario, can you repeat that? I didn't quite get that. So what's your first reason for being good? I'm sorry. Can you?
One theory is that we are genetically wired.
So you're already predisposed.
To enjoy helping people. We have this feeling that we feel like helping and supporting and being good people, that this is a good thing.
Okay.
And again, this is not rational, it's just that how we're genetically wired. So that's not the kind of answer I'm looking for, unless that's the truth. The second one is, briefly, is that I should be good. It's the right thing to do, because if I'm good, then others will be good as well, and that will reflect somehow back to me. Maybe directly, maybe after 7 steps, whatever. If the world is a better place, then I'm living in a better world as well. So this also comes back to me. This is a selfish, again, not selfish in a bad way, but this is a self-beneficial reason for it. So is that all about it? Is that all what being good is about? Or is there a third reason that is totally rational of why we should be good?
I don't think it has anything to do with what you're saying. So
You don't think it has anything to do with what?
With what?
With my theory.
It is one. There are multiple answers to this. At least, like you said, like
Let
one
me
is
just
like yourself.
before you give your answer, Leslie. Let me just ask Mario to just clarify one thing, because I think that's going to change the answers. So because I think two different questions are why should people do good? That's one question, and the other question is why do people do good, right? Because those are slightly different things, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm looking more for the first question. That's my question: is why should I do good?
Why should people
Now,
do
why?
good?
Yeah, why do I do good? Yeah, you can say because it feels good to help, because that's how I was raised, because whatever. That's not the question
Why should
I'm
people
looking to
do good?
answer.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
genetic thing is in a sense why do people do good, but not why should people do good. But anyways, I didn't want to Leslie.
I mentioned the genetic part to say that there is no should. It's just that we're helpless, genetically wired to do good, and we don't have a choice about whether to decide to do it or not. And not in that meaning that we don't have a choice, but that since we're wired like this, then we just do it, and there is no should or shouldn't. Okay. And that's why I mentioned the first theory. But again, I'm not convinced in any of those two theories. It's just the closest that I could come up with. I'm curious to hear Leslie's point.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the key attribute that we need to focus on is empathy. Because if you take very simple principles, so let's do a thought experiment, okay? Let's assume that, right, wrong didn't matter, like killing didn't matter, and you went and killed someone. The only resistance you have to it, forget religion, forget all these other things. The only resistance is, what if someone killed you? Like that's going through your mind. What if I died this moment or someone killed me? So the fact that we're able to empathize, okay, this person's down on his luck, like a beggar on the street, like you can do it for selfish reasons, because that's like you're totally right. You can say, I want to feel good helping someone in this thing. But I think the real root is that you're able to put yourself in that situation and say, how would I feel? And what would I want in that situation? If I'm down on my luck, don't have a house, don't have a job, at that point, what would I want? I would want a job or some $5. So you give it because you're like, I feel your pain. Now, let's take it like a level above that. Why do you care about his pain, right? Like, it's his pain, whatever, fuck it, like his pain. That's kind of a deep question. That's an interesting question to ask. Why do you care about any other pain? So then you come to a thought experiment of, societally, if everybody ignored pain, then, how would we function, right? Like, how do you go forward as a society? If everybody just did their own shit and didn't care about everybody else's pain, people would kill every 5 seconds. Like, you and we would meet the first time. I didn't like the fact that he said up something about Fox, stab the guy. So that is, I think, this is my thought process, at least. So for me, it's like, I don't want to live in a society where killing is so easy and okay, despite the fact I don't care about it, that I don't want it to become so easy that I have to fear for my life and like live like, with a knife and like with a gun in my hand every 5 seconds. So that's probably like the most like maybe basic thing that I can think of. You can build on top of that with like, selfish reasons, narcissistic reasons, other things. Kind of my answer. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah. Yes, but whatever you mentioned, more or less fits into my second theory of, I want to do good because this will somehow reflect back on me. And maybe I don't want to be in that position. Like you put it in a different angle. You put it in like why I don't kill somebody, and that's a bad thing. Why I don't do it. Same thing, because I don't want to die and I don't want to be in that situation. It doesn't feel good for me to be in that situation. Okay, great. So this is coming back to me. This is selfish. I'm thinking about myself, and
Well,
that's why I'm doing this. And this doesn't sound like a good,
no, hang on
you
though.
know,
Like I think you're like, you can take it as a selfish thing, but it's also that your actions define what people around you accept and don't accept. So if you're someone who's okay killing, slowly people around you will accept that it's okay killing. Yes, it is for a selfish reason, but like it's not a narcissistic selfism. It's a lead by
exactly. I did
example.
say that. I did say it's selfish, but not in a negative way. It's selfish
Okay,
in
okay,
a
yeah,
in a,
yeah.
in
It's
a positive way, like
self-beneficial, but not selfish.
self beneficial. Exactly. Yeah.
And I agree with you. Yeah, it is self-beneficial. Like, you don't want to live in a world like that, which is fair. Like, I agree with you in that sense. If it's not selfish, but it's self-beneficial.
So so here's a thought experiment. Um, Assuming in a hypothetical world that nothing will affect you, you're immortal or whatever, you're immune from anything and anyone and any emotion and anything. You don't need anybody. Okay.
I like where you're going.
Now, should you still do good to others? You see,
Now,
this is why this ties into the genetic piece. Yeah, that we're genetically wired like this. Because
well,
yes, the first answer in my mind is like, yeah, I still want to do good, but why? I remove that fact that it's coming back to me.
well, so here's so now this comes to an empowerment of an individual. It's because it's an interesting thought experiment, but there's a lot of depth to it, and there's a lot of like things you can play with in this kind of situation. You are making this person effectively close to a, like, godlike. Like, you're elevating him above humans. Like, he can't be killed, he can't lose money, whatever. So
Can be hurt, can not pain. Yeah.
right. So at the end of the day,
So we're talking about a godlike person.
close, like, let's assume, right? Thought experiment. Assume he's like God walking on earth.
Mm-hmm.
If you have such a situation, it becomes primarily what drives the person. If he, like, let's say this person enjoys killing, like he likes the act of killing and seeing someone die, he's gonna fucking do it all the time, right? Like that's what he likes.
Yeah.
Let's assume, like, so for example, for me, most of my things is driven like, how do we collectively become better, like, as a human race, right? Like, some person can think like that, like, how do I become a leader or help people or do this? Some person might become a soldier, right? It becomes the individual's reaction. And that comes down to what you're saying, genetics. It's your personality that at this point, what you care the most is what you're going to do. Because you have no constraint. You can do whatever the hell you want. You might give to the poor despite having all the money in the world. Like, it comes down to exactly your personality. And I don't know if personality is genetics. Maybe it's nurture, and, whether your parents brought you up that way.
Big part of it is genetics.
Yeah, so it's genetics, characteristics. That would would really reflect.
And
So in the thought experiment that I did, what you should do is all comes back into what you care about the most. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Bruno?
Well, I think I'm gonna turn this into sort of a nerdy conversation, because your thought experiment, actually, there is a way to do your thought experiment, and it's a very easy way, which is like playing a video game. That's what we do when we play a video game that gives you choice. For example, you can play, this is probably not a good example, but it's probably the example that you both know, because you don't play a lot of video games, right, Mario? But you probably know GTA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've heard of it. So in GTA, and I'm not a big GTA guy. Actually, I don't like those games all that much, even though I like video games. But they're fine, but they're not my favorite. But in any case, what's interesting about GTA, other than being super popular, is that yeah, you have your character, and yeah, like yeah, the main story of the game, you're usually some sort of criminal with actually some, with also some positive sides to your personality. But you are the one as the player, that will choose how this character will conduct himself in an open world, with like yeah, they're fake, but you have people, you have cars, you have like businesses and whatever.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
some people have a lot of fun, like beating up prostitutes and shooting people, like running over people, doing all sorts of like really evil things, killing pregnant women, and so on. And some people don't like. Personally, when I play those games, and again, GTA is not a great example because you're sort of playing a criminal,
It's
so
like it's like Westworld from HBO.
role playing a little bit. But in these types of games, at least, I personally I like doing good. I like not doing like evil things. Like I don't enjoy doing evil things in a video game. Like I enjoy doing good things in a video game. Like I like to save people or at least not kill them. And I
But
think
that's not a good example though, because in video game, it's not reality.
I know,
You
and
know there are no consequences.
and that's the
Yeah.
problem with with the
It's
video
not
game.
only that. It's not only that. It's also that video game has a clear objective, like kill the most people, get the most money.
Well, kind of. Like
It depends on the game, but largely, like when you're
Well,
talking about like these sandbox games,
yeah,
because
but the objective in a lot of these games, it's not to kill the most people. The objective tends to be, follow the story, and that's the objective of the game, right?
well,
Like what
I'm
you
saying
do, like in side quests and all that, it's usually not going to affect.
no, I know. I'm saying in a PvP setting, usually there's a very clear objective. Like player versus player, there's usually a very clear objective.
But let's say, and there are video games like that, but just let's say for the argument, you have a video game in which you can either be good or bad. Actually, a better example, Mario probably won't know it because it's a lesser known game, but there's a game called Fable. In that game, in Fable, for example, you can really just choose to be a good guy. You're like sort of like a knight kind of guy. Like you have a sword and a shield, and it's kind of a medieval world. And you can be a guy that does a lot of good, for people, or you can be a bastard and there's a lot of you can do a lot of bad. You shape. Is this guy a villain, or that's the whole idea about the behind the game in the first place. You can either choose to be the villain or the hero of the story, right? And yeah, video games have limitations. Some people choose to be the hero. Some people choose to be the villain, and nobody's telling them, you're gonna play as a hero or you're gonna play as a villain. But the truth is, people have different natures. And if we had like if there were more if there was more impact to your actions, like in something like Westworld. I'm so nerdy, but like if we move on from video games and we talk about Westworld, in Westworld they also choose. You have this character, you go into this world. I don't know if you guys have seen the show. I think
I've seen season, yeah.
Yeah, so some people are bad and some people are good in this world, and that really just comes down to the fact of like, do you enjoy being bad or do you enjoy being good? How's your like moral?
I don't.
You know?
Yeah, I don't like that this is the answer. I mean, it's probably the answer, but I don't like that this is the answer. That the only reason, especially if we're immune from anything, the only reason to think about whether we should do good or not is whatever we feel like or whatever we care about.
That's not my answer, though. I'm just talking really. My answer. I'm talking about why do people good or why do people not do good? Like that's so going back to what I said before. I think my answer to why should people do good is a pretty different answer. It's not. Yeah.
Okay.
Why people do good naturally? I think it has to do with their nature. Are you inclined to do it, or are you not inclined to do good?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah.
And there are people that are not inclined to do good for some reason. I mean, we can talk about that more, and
No. My interest is in the other question is like should or
Yeah,
should
exactly.
why should
So
I do
that's
this?
why those are
I
kind
mean,
of
what
different questions. And why should
what's in
people do good? I'm more inclined to answer in a different way. And I think it's kind of a tough question because I think ultimately really should be due to the fact that you should want to do good. You know, there should be a philosophical aspiration to act in an ethical manner throughout your life. So I would say that, you know, that should be like an ethical aspiration. That should be a philosophical aspiration. And I don't know why exactly we should aspire to this, you know, but I think people should aspire to this. They should aspire to live an ethical life.
but
And that's
but
kind of the
Mario,
basis of my answer. But there's a lot more to it. Like, why should we aspire to have an ethical life? What does this entail, right? I mean, this is complicated. This is a complex. But I think this is my starting point. You know, people should aspire to lead an ethical life. This I think should be the starting point.
well, so there's an additional like thought to this is like what other possible permutation, like what other logical answer can you even think of for why we do good? Like it's that one, it's either selfish, like non-bad selfish, or like you're wired to do what you want to do. Like there's no other variables in this situation to play with. The only other thing is you
Yeah.
introduce religion and say God told you to. Like that's the only other third
Yeah.
option.
I put religion aside, but yeah.
Yeah, but like putting religion aside, what other variables
Well,
do you have to play with to come up with an answer?
well,
Like there's nothing else.
Well, the reason why you know, there's a couple reasons why we should aspire to lead an ethical life, and one reason is, you know, without a doubt, you know, it's like what you guys said before. You know, that's one consideration. You know, you lead by example, right? Like that's why you said, Mario. That's what Leslie said. You know, you're showing other people how they should act, and the best way to do that is by doing that yourself. And that comes back to you. Nobody wants to live in a society where people are mean to each other.
Exactly. That's
Ultimately,
the self-beneficial part. Yeah.
ultimately, it's not, you know, it's not very nice. You know, it's like nobody really wants to live in a society where people are mean to each other, because people are going to be mean to you. Generally, you don't want people to be mean to you. You want people to be good to you. But that's like the selfish aspiration. But I think we should also have a different aspect. We should have we should really aspire to lead an ethical life, regardless of that.
Well, I think there's slightly a little more to that than just saying it's selfish, because if you think of it in terms of possibilities as a race, like I go back to killing, but like that's the easiest one. If you kill someone, you remove the possibility of what they could do in the future. Like he could be the next Einstein, he could be, you know, next Mozart, and
Or next Hitler.
or next Hitler. Fair, very fair point. But my
But
thing here is
I see where you're going with this. I can see
you're
where you're going with
allowing
this. You're going by,
possibility.
yeah. Or other way to put it is that you are contributing to a healthy society that is going to stay healthy and generate better life and better wellness for people even after you die.
So it might not be entirely
Right.
selfish. Like till you live, maybe it's great, but there's a little bit of, you know, we all want to be better. Like, cause I think most people want that. They want the world, like largely the human race to go forward and not backwards. And I think there's a little bit of that. I don't think you can discard that character.
Yeah. One angle of this, but I'm just putting it out there, but it's not, doesn't contradict what you're saying or conflict with it, is that people love to leave with a legacy. Love to leave with, okay, this person helped a lot, did this, that. So there is some type of self-fulfillment in it. So it's all back to self-beneficial. So if then after you die, you want to do something that continues after you die because you want people to keep saying your name and thinking about you positively. And that's the feeling you have before you die. But so yeah, this does exist, but that's not to say that this contradicts with the need and the should for doing good even after we die, and where it's not for the reason that people will think about us and will have a legacy to put out there. Yeah. Interesting. I gotta drop in a few minutes, dude.
Okay.
What do you want to do next?
No, I mean, we've been doing this for a while, and so we can end it here. Thanks a lot for me meeting up, guys, and I hope you
This
had.
was fun. This was legitimately fun. I liked all the crazy stuff we talked. I missed this actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, I had fun. I think it was a pretty good conversation.
And
Yeah.
the fact that we're able to speak about it and like legitimately give each other space and like actually think is refreshing.
Yeah.
I think so. This is what this is gonna be about, guys. I think
I love it.
I think it's good. I think we should do it again.
100%.
You know what I think we should do for next time is like everybody come with one question that they want to ask the others.
Yeah.
You know, this way we'll have at least 3 questions we can discuss, and that by itself is gonna give us a good amount of conversation.
Okay, we can do that. We can do
Yeah. I mean, as a moderator or host yourself, you can bring whatever number of questions you want. But from my perspective, if we each one of us have one question and we, be given the opportunity to ask it, I think that would be good. A variety of different interests.
I think. Well, we already did that today because you did bring your question and it was a good.
Yeah.
I mean, Leslie didn't, but he'll, if he wants to.
No, it's a good idea.
So
No, it's a good idea.
I think that's a good idea. I think
Cool.
great idea. So yeah, let's do it again, and yeah, we can end it here. I'm gonna stop recording.